Hello everybody and welcome back to artofdino.com and saveearth.us, and I have got an interesting one today in the style of this old German encyclopedia that I brought out at one point, but this is a different one by a guy named Johann Georg Heck, and he did a great job in creating basically artworks that cover everything. And I am also in a similar vein where I like to do, I combine my teacher elements, because I've been a teacher for 20 plus years, with my artist elements and creative elements, and I like to try and figure out ways to create art that can help people learn. So things that are basically taking a ton of stuff and visualizing it in an artistic way. And so I am very inspired by guys like this, who was tasked with basically engraving artwork for an encyclopedia about everything known at the time in the 1830s, and that's when they knew a lot of cool stuff. And so he did an absolutely fantastic job with arranging the artworks, doing all of the research, the necessary research, as far as, everything from the patterns of the butterflies to the veins and the nervous system of the human, to weather, to religion, to ancient cultures, to botany, to art, to sculpture, to space. He did absolutely everything. And so I am amazingly impressed, and I wanted to share it with everyone, basically, since this is also an art channel and an information channel and a teaching and all this kind of good stuff, imagination. This includes everything. And also, again, for my own personal sake, I like putting a lot of this stuff up and saving it so that I can go back to it and reference it later as well. And I hope you do too, because it's a lot of good imagery to screenshot and save here. So first, he deals with the ancient cultures, and just, again, take a look at this stuff. And in general, the thoughts that come to mind from all of this are outrageous. Anthropomorphic animals and beasts, giants, people that are so strong, things that are out of the imagination. But these are all sculptures that have been found and documented and show, again, a distant time that's ridiculous. Was it filled with people creating genetically modified freaks of some sort or different things, or were they all just different species that existed in this realm, came from other parts beyond the realm, or existed in this giant world and made their way down here? But look at some of just the structures of these people, the artwork, the twirlings, the things that are encased around everyone, and the style. These are almost a different type of human than we have today. We are not built this way at all. And I wonder if it's, a result of just constantly walking. These people never really drove in cars. Maybe they had chariots and stuff, but I'm sure they most likely walked everywhere and did a lot of stuff on their own. But they might have been something totally different. They, again, might be giants that all these artworks and sculptures are based on. They could be gods from another zone. They could be the blah, blah, blah from blah, blah, blah. Who knows? But again, if they were capable of making these buildings, they deserve a lot of respect. And to me, the only people that would be capable of making these buildings are beings that look like this, of this stature, of this strength, of this magnitude, of this power, of this grace, of this grandeur, of this, whatever. They're not boggled down by cell phones or clothing types or celebrities gnawing at their brains. They are free to do whatever they want and be creative and embrace that creativity. And who knows? They were probably able to fly and do magical things that our brains can't even do, because we're so boggled down with nonsense and big pharma crap and all the everything else. So look at all these things, though. Hindu to Buddhism to Zoroastrianism, all depicted here in an amazing way, in such great imagery, some of the best. This guy not only drew amazingly, but he picked some of the best imagery out of the gigantic, massive stock of research that people have done. Again, look at these Egyptian things. They are just mind-boggling. The fact that those statues are could be the size of the Statue of Liberty, and they're just there, and they're unknown, and we don't know anything really about them that we can really trust, and all of these things. But they were all existing at the same time in some world that was amazingly connected. Athena right there, that statue, absolutely phenomenal, or Aphrodite, whichever one that is. But again, it's just so cool. So many famous ones. Look at the dudes in the middle on the bottom. That has to be the form of a giant to me. There's the bodybuilders you see today, they got nothing on that. Not even close. And I think these guys they weren't just muscle heads at the beach all the time, or at Muscle Beach lifting weights and at the gym. They were a different breed of human entirely. And the art is our last clue that remains. Thankfully, the resetters were, at least some of them, were amazed by the beauty so much that they couldn't destroy it, these kind of things. So they have lived on, thankfully. But how much longer, What if AI erases this stuff and creates an entirely new thing in minutes? that replaces history for a generation, 3 generations from now. You never know. Any of that could be possible. So you gotta preserve this stuff. All of it must be preserved and honored. And it almost seems like we're becoming gradually more human as these things go on, as these pictures progress, although you still have the horned men, the different horse combinations, the unicorns, all these different things that are depicted in Greek, Roman, all different cultures from around the world and everywhere. They're not just there. They could be in America. They could be all over the place. These people were awesome. And then after that, it starts going into structures. I believe this is the structure of a theater, which is amazingly cool because it talks about all the different systems for pulling in drapes and different scenes. Look at all these. Really, really cool. And again, this information right here is like this guy knew it. He's like, this is a way to, build a civilization and preserve a civilization by preserving all of these things, all these sacred geometric shapes, their measurements, the folding dodecahedron up there, all these different patterns, some of which I've come across in my research, some I haven't, and I got to dive deeper into them. Like, this is very interesting too. I'm not totally a math guy, but I do love geometry and things like that. And this, again, what do all these mean? All of these different things have a purpose. They all have a point. They all have a use. They all have a time and a place for themselves where they will be utilized and helpful to whoever needs them. But again, gotta preserve it. And this geometric solids, I love these. The sacred geometry, a huge part in art, and all the points there and the patterns of showing those, and there could be other patterns and shapes exploited from those dots as well. This one is very cool. Measuring tools, surveying tools, all the good stuff down there for tracking the stars, the sextants, and so much more, again, that are all replaced now by iPad and iPhone apps, which shouldn't be, because they can be destroyed and eliminated and gone and forgotten, whereas these things are pure and physical and structural and engineered to work. But again, they got a lot of things wrong, because there's no way our sun is in the center. It's just absolutely foolish, and I'm not even sure how they were even thinking that in the ancient times. They must have just been, again, the propaganded masses, because it just doesn't even seem like it. When you see the sun and the moon, you know the moon is super small, and the sun is the same size, but yet we revolve around the sun, which is 90. It's so stupid. I can't fathom that people with a brain like this would were able to do this and do so much of it perfectly engraved. Are you kidding me? And then they still think things like that. It boggles my mind. Unless they just had to, they had to appease the publishers and whatnot and the governments of the time, so they kept those thoughts hidden. Didn't want to be seen as heretics or science freaks or something, but either way, more stuff here, some pendulums, some levies, some ways of lifting things, some gauntlets, some, who even knows, pistons, I don't even know what, pulleys, lever, God knows, some weights, counterweights, all these different kinds of things here. Again, look at all of these. Take a look at every one, and each one of these is like an avenue of thought that you can go down and discover something about, or something about its purpose. This is amazing too, the patterns in nature that follow beautifully the other mathematical patterns, and they all share a same beauty and element of symmetry, fractal magic, all kinds of stuff. Unraveling from the golden ratio of phi, a glorious number. Here's some things here, some different landscapes. These are different waterway kind of things, like peninsulas and inlets, things like that. Here we go for some different weather phenomena. Different things that you'll see and notice, different ways of describing those things so other people can see just from, you don't even need descriptions. That's another element of this artist that's really great, is his visuals capitalize, and the surrounding visuals all kind of help you figure out what these things are, even without descriptions. And that's pretty amazing. Some luminaries here, some comets. God knows what those are. We still don't really totally know, I don't think, or their origins or what, but it cannot be what they tell us. It has to be something else. Here are some methods of, I think, like boiling things, some chemistry kind of set tools, different things used in those processes, and distillates and whatnot. A lot more as well. So many different cool things. And again, look at all these inventions that are going to the wayside, all replaced with plastic, China-made dump crap. that lasts like a day and is gone, whereas these things would last forever. The other day I was baking cookies with my mom, and she had a sifter that was like an old can with like a turning wheel and like a grater and like a screen, and it was perfect, and it was probably as old as my great-grandfather, and the thing still works today. Simple machines were amazing. And these crystals, again, this is, how do you even do this with engravings? But noticing the shapes, the geometries of the crystal patterns, their growth patterns, and adding that in with their descriptions of it, all in black and white too. It's like ridiculous, incredibly skilled engravings here. And they're all so cool. Again, these guy tackles everything, every single thing. And what do these crystals grow? How do they grow? What is the origin of these? And does this stem from some kind of lost art form of the ancient past, where people were making these, like alchemically making these, or coming up with cool things, like by observing the nature process, and then they became a bunch, and then they were buried and crushed. Civilizations used to use them as amazing things. Who knows? These shells, another amazing thing, a natural product from the sea, as far as we know, but just a credible array of patterns all over the place. Total beauty. There's some different things. Look at the descriptions of the ground layers. I love that. That's very interesting. And although, it's not totally accurate, it's still interesting to see those different layers. And it would be great to take to use modern tech in a way that could show what is underground in some kind of X-ray fashion that didn't destroy the world or pollute everything in a mile radius around it. There's some cool nature, again, some cool building stuff. And this is pretty neat, because these buildings, again, it shows the inner workings of these buildings. They weren't just stone and brick. They were so much more than that to keep them functioning, keep them working. Building bridges. We've seen so many amazing bridges in the past, and this is a great way to preserve them. And these ones were so strong. Look at the strength in these. These aren't wooden kind of nonsense bridges. They're amazingly structured and strengthened bridges. This is a great way. There's a new book too that I've seen a lot of advertising on TV for, like How to Build a Civilization, where a modern group of artists did something kind of like this. The art's a little more surreal, but they did this. They found the need and importance. I even sent them an email. I was like, dude, I'd love to be part of this team and help you guys do these drawings, these amazingly animated, amazingly detailed drawings. That's right up my alley. But again, the mint, all this stuff, every aspect of life covered in this. And so I encourage you guys, screenshot, share, check the link below, zoom in, trace some stuff it's needed, research some stuff, dive down some avenues of thought here. There are a lot of them to go around. Look at all these machines, all these amazing machines used so much in the past, and maybe still now, but again, obviously replaced by something else. Some of these are these ethereal generators here. It looks like some kind of like revolving magnet thing that could have created power. The frequencies there, all different, showing the different frequencies and different design patterns that create different everything. The trains that were probably repurposed. Look at that guy down there. I don't know what he's doing, but again, the trains, we've been seeing a lot and thinking a lot about those in the past and their true origins. How old are they? Who came up with this system? Who came up with these brilliant machines that our people were destroying and crashing into each other when they were finding them in the early West? And then all this stuff, dinosaurs, etc. But are there dinosaurs, or were those all phony and just to cover the old lizards and the old reptiles and the old giant birds that were everywhere, because they were allowed to grow, their species were allowed to grow, and they were allowed to flourish, and they probably didn't have many predators, or they had predators that were even bigger. Who knows? But again, deception. We don't know. From bones, you can't tell what was on their skin. So people need to remember that. Like the sea dragon could be a dragon, could be a snake. It doesn't necessarily have to be a dinosaur. It could be a lot of things that we know of today that are just bigger back then and more pure in their form. But here we go. This is the last one, the seashells. So I just hope you all enjoyed this beautiful collection of art. Definitely check out the links and get inspired to draw your own stuff. Again, I'll put this this is the Egyptian calendar that I drew. I'd never seen this Egyptian astrological chart until my mom came back from Egypt, and then I was like, what? And then I was seeing it everywhere after that. It was amazing because I'd been on the lookout for things, never seen them until I found them. So you all might be the same. Hope one of these symbols in here will inspire you to create a beautiful artwork of your own, inspired by the greats and the ancients, because you can really, when you do that, when you take an ancient artwork and you draw it and you meditate on it for weeks and months, you would discover things. You think about it so much that your mind unwraps and unravels these thought patterns that you never would have come up with before. And I've done that a lot, and I don't really always share it with people, because sometimes it's kind of amazing and it's personal what you discover during your art sessions. So I encourage it for everyone. You get magic. These ancient beings, the ancient artists, will connect with you, whoever they are. They will connect with you in a magical art way. So I encourage it again. Get inspired, get creative, and save Earth. Bless you all from artofdino.com and saveearth.us.